Respiratory system includes all the structures that help in the gas exchange in animals and plants. In animals and humans, the gas exchange is done with the help of lungs. Lungs provide the body tissues with oxygen and eliminates carbon dioxide, which is the waste product of respiration. The oxygenated air enters the nose from the atmosphere, and from nose it reaches the pharynx, which is on the backside of the nose and mouth. From pharynx, the oxygenated air reaches the larynx, then to trachea, and then to the bronchi in lungs. From bronchi, it reaches the bronchioles and then to the alveoli, and from there, oxygen enters the bloodstream. From bloodstream, the carbon dioxide enters the alveoli and it finally reaches the nose through the same pathway. From nose, it expels out. The respiratory tract is divided into upper airways and lower airways. Upper airways includes nose and nasal passages, paranasal sinuses, pharynx and upper portion of larynx. Lower airways include the lower portion of larynx, then trachea, bronchi and bronchioles. Now let's learn in detail about each of them. Nose is the first organ in the respiratory system. The inside of nose is the nasal cavity and it is divided into left and right canal by a bony wall known as nasal septum. The mouth cavity and the nasal cavity is divided by a palate. The hard palate is placed anteriorly and soft palate is posteriorly. Soft palate is movable. The main function of nose is breathing. On the roof of nose, olfactory bulb is situated. Olfactory nerves convey the sense of smell from olfactory cells to the nervous system. At the entrance of nose is the vestibule, which is lined with skin that has thick hairs. Now let's learn about paranasal sinuses. Paranasal sinuses are a group of four paired air-filled spaces surrounding the nasal cavity. Most of its development takes place after birth and it reaches the final size at the age of 20. They are actually resonance chambers for human voice. Pharynx is a common passage of nasal cavity and mouth. Pharynx is divided into three: nasopharynx, oropharynx, and laryngopharynx. Nasopharynx is the upper portion of the pharynx just behind the nose, and nasopharynx is a passage of air and secretions of nose to the oropharynx. It is connected to middle ear. Tonsil is situated in the nasopharynx. When it is enlarged, it may interfere with the respiration. The middle portion is the oropharynx. Oropharynx is just behind the mouth, and the lower portion is the laryngopharynx. It is known as hypopharynx. It is connected to the esophagus. At the lower end, pharynx is divided into trachea and esophagus. There is a structure known as epiglottis, which is a leaf-like flap at the entrance of larynx. Its main function is to seal off the trachea or the windpipe during eating so that food doesn't accidentally reach the lungs. Larynx is commonly called as voice box. Air passes through larynx on its way to lungs. It houses the vocal cords and there is an opening in between the vocal cords known as the glottis, and it has external cartilaginous plates which supports the structure. And the front of this cartilaginous plate is the thyroid cartilage, and this thyroid cartilage has a central ridge and elevated portion known as the Adam's apple. This Adam's apple is really large in adult males. Trachea or windpipe is a tube that connects nose and mouth to the lungs. It has a length of 10 to 12 cm and a width of 2 cm. The wall is supported by horseshoe-shaped incomplete cartilaginous rings, and it has a mucosal lining that has mucosal glands, and at the end, trachea is divided into two bronchi, one for each left and right lung. There are two functions of trachea. One, the cartilaginous rings helps in keeping the air passages open all the time, and the mucosal lining will eliminate all the dust particles that present in the inhaled air. Now let's learn about bronchi and bronchioles. The trachea divides into two primary bronchi, then to secondary bronchi, and then to tertiary bronchi, and further divisions together known as subsegmental bronchi. The air passages inside the lung is like a branched tree that branches off from the bronchi. They are known as bronchioles. These bronchioles leads to tiny sacs called alveoli. The lining of bronchioles has smooth muscles that contract when there is a decrease in blood flow, and it dilates when there is an increase in blood flow. And the walls of the bronchioles have projections called cilia that trap all the microbes and dust particles in the inhaled air. Alveoli are tiny air spaces in lungs where carbon dioxide leaves the bloodstream and oxygen enters it. The oxygenated air enters the pharynx, trachea, bronchi, and bronchioles, and then it reaches the alveoli, and carbon dioxide is pushed out from the alveoli through the same pathway. Around 30 crore alveoli is present in a single lung. A single alveolus has alveolar chambers in it, and these alveolar chambers have pores in it. Now let's learn about one of the most important organ of respiratory system, the lungs. Humans have two lungs situated near to the backbone on either side of the heart. It extracts oxygen from the atmosphere and transports it into the bloodstream, and from bloodstream it eliminates carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. The right lung is slightly bigger than the left one. The left one is smaller in volume due to the asymmetrical position of the heart. The place between the two lungs is the mediastinum, in which is situated the heart, thymus, and portions of esophagus and trachea. The right lung is divided into superior lobe, middle lobe, and inferior lobe by two fissures. One is horizontal and one is oblique. And left lung is divided into superior lobe and inferior lobe. Both these lungs sits on its base on the internal skeletal muscle known as the diaphragm. And there is a place in the lung known as the hilum through which all the blood vessels, the lymphatic vessels, the airways and nerves enter and exit the lung. And the surface of the lung is covered with membranes known as pulmonary pleurae. The outer membrane is the parietal pleura, and inner one is the visceral pleura. And there is a cavity in between the pleurae, which is known as the pleural cavity, which is filled with pleural fluid. This pleural fluid acts as a lubricant, and it helps the pleurae to slide against each other during the respiratory movement. The diaphragm is an internal skeletal muscle that extends across the thoracic cavity. It separates the thoracic cavity and the abdominal cavity and plays a very important role in respiration. When this diaphragm contracts, it moves down and we breathe in. When it dilates, it moves up and we breathe out. Now let's learn how this respiratory system works. The oxygenated air enters from the nose to the larynx, then to trachea, then to bronchi and bronchioles, and from bronchioles it reaches the alveoli. One alveolus is surrounded with capillaries that carry blood. Let's assume this as an alveolus which has alveolar chambers inside it, and this is the blood vessel. and blood has RBC in it. That is a red blood cell. The oxygen molecules diffuses from the alveolus to the capillaries and they get attached with RBCs. This RBC has a protein known as hemoglobin. This hemoglobin reacts with oxygen that gives the cherry red color to the red blood cells. From there, this oxygenated blood reaches the heart and from there to the rest of the body. Like that, the carbon dioxide molecules diffuses into the alveolus and from alveolus it reaches the bronchioles, then bronchi and then the larynx and then through nose it expels out. When we inhale, the diaphragm moves down and that will give more space for the lungs to expand and the alveoli gets inflated. That will help in the absorption of oxygen. And when we breathe out, that when we exhale, the diaphragm moves in and the lungs gets contracted and the alveoli deflated and all the carbon dioxide inside the alveoli is pushed out through the pathway into the nose. The process of inhalation and exhalation together known as respiration. That's it about respiration. If you like this video, please share it with your friends. If you have any queries, put it in the comment box. Thank you.